Hey adventurers! Today we're going to talk about something different. Stay with me to the end, I promise it's worth it, though you may not want to go near the Tampa Bay or the Gulf after this. Warning! Sometimes history can be upsetting. There will be talk of unpleasant things, so proceed with caution. This is the Alafia River, North Prong, just before it merges with the South Prong to become the Alafia River. This river has an incredibly rich history, starting 12,000 years ago when we see the first signs of human civilization. Those first Floridians lived alongside megafauna like giant sloths, mastodons, alligators, mammoths, and camels. The people who lived along this river with those large beasts of old did the same thing we do when we have trash. They took it to their dumping grounds. Just like our dumps and landfills are large mounds, so were theirs. They would also bury their dead in mounds. So along the Alafia, there was once a great number of these mounds. As people do, those early Floridians cleared pathways and roads through the dense forest around the river. When Europeans arrived 12,000-ish years later, they used those roads as well, and now many have been paved over and are still used today. The two main tribes from this area were the Tumacuans and Calusa. There were many others in the area, but those were the main two during this time. They were joined by some of the Creeks who were fleeing Andrew Jackson's war campaign in Georgia, with his horse reins made from human flesh. How appalling can someone get? Andy here rose to power even after that. I wish people would pay a little bit more attention to things like that when heading to the polls. These people lived just fine without things like muskets or smallpox for at least 12,000 years. Then some edgelord guys with a weird fascination with human flesh comes along and destroys the vast majority of their population. Then they bulldoze the vast majority of their settlements and mounds. One day, maybe we'll learn that we need to do better. In the meantime, this guy is still on the $20 bill. Anyway, in 1848, 3 years after Jackson was out of power, cattle rancher James Alderman built a homestead just south of the Alafia River in Lithia. The banks of the Alafia are pretty treacherous for cattle to try and cross, so James cut into those steep banks and forded the river. All this time later, you can still visit where he did this at Alderman's Ford Conservation Park in Lithia. Not long after that, in the 1860s, Jules Verne chose just about right here as the setting to the rocket launch cannon in his novel From the Earth to the Moon. Verne chose this area because it is along the 28th parallel, which interestingly extends over to Cape Canaveral, where NASA chose to have their rocket launches as well. In 1849, a group of young adults met here at Alderman's Ford and had a picnic. They had a great time and began coming back year after year, bringing more and more people with them until 1904, when the Hillsborough County Democrats decided to use that as a meeting ground for their primaries. From there, it grew drastically, and by 1928, there were over 7,000 people in attendance. Then, in the 1930s, the Great Depression made it harder for people to attend. In 1937, the people running it decided they didn't want to talk politics anymore and declared it a taboo subject. And in 1938, they scheduled the picnic for after the Democratic primary. That made the whole event useless, and in 1942, they canceled the whole thing and sold the land to the county. The area is still used as meeting grounds, but more for nature lovers and kids' birthday parties nowadays. Fast forward to December 7th, 1997. Mulberry Phosphates Incorporated, located on Skinned Sapling Creek near the start of the North Prong of the Alafia River, had a leak in their gypsum stack. A more than 50 million gallons of acid leak. That year had seen a lot of rain, and the river was high and flowing swiftly. At first, they thought this would help dilute the toxic waste, but it just made the poison spread faster. Everything in and around the river between Mulberry, Florida and Tampa, Florida died. 377 acres teeming with life and history, all gone. It's been nearly 30 years since then, and you can see that plant life is back and there are a few fish around. The county sued MPI in 2001 for restoration money and won $3.7 million. MPI declared bankruptcy and another company bought the plant. There have been a few restoration projects along the way to help the river out, but nothing can recoup all that life lost. They tried dumping the rest of the toxic waste into ditches near Tampa, but they developed a leak 10 years later and dumped 170 million gallons of this stuff into Tampa Bay. The same stuff, right into Tampa Bay. Now, the company that bought MPI owns a whole lot of things, phosphate and fertilizer companies being just one of them. I will not name them because people who have investigated them before have lost everything, and I just would rather not. My voice is not big enough right now. I encourage you to look it up, though, to find out who they are. Because listen to this. They also own a plant in Riverview on Archie Creek, which flows directly into Hillsborough Bay. Hurricane Francis knocked a hole in the gypsum stack there and sent 65 million gallons into the bay, killing an unknown amount of wildlife. A different phosphate plant in Mulberry, owned by that same company, had the biggest sinkhole in Florida's history open under it in 2016. More than 200 million gallons of this toxic acid went right into our aquifer that all of us drink out of, and they don't even know what happened to it after that. They have no idea where it went. They didn't even tell anybody right away. They got caught, and that's why we know about it. Not only that, but it took them 2 years to fix the leak. They were just continuing to dump right into the aquifer for 2 years, y'all. An article in the Ledger written in 2021 said that they were still actively pumping 4,000 gallons per minute from their recovery wells to clean up this mess. But if they don't even know where it is, I'm not sure what good that's doing. In 2019, their fertilizer plant in Bartow, Florida developed a leak in its gypsum stack, which they claimed they were able to keep contained. All of these horrible chemicals and toxic waste going into our precious rivers and oceans is despicable. So many people swim in those rivers and oceans. I wonder how many of us have developed health conditions due to swimming in literal toxic waste. If 50 million gallons of it can kill every little thing in 42 miles of heavily diluted river, then it can't possibly be good for us to be swimming in. Not to mention, I had an employee at a hospital tell me that all of the fluid that was being drained during dialysis gets dumped directly into the Hillsborough River. So good luck out there, everyone. And don't forget to like and subscribe.